1-1. Микрофон работает. Добрый день. Я очень рада
Good
вас
morning,
видеть.
I'm very happy to
Спасибо, что
see you
пришли. Давайте
today.
начинать.
Yeah, let's start. Thank
Для
you for
начала
coming.
познакомимся. Буквально
So let
пару
me
слов.
introduce
Меня
myself.
зовут
My
Настя.
name is
Я
Nastya.
в тестировании
I've been
достаточно
in
недавно,
testing
всего 2,5 года, из
only
них
2.5
полгода
years,
я,
so
можно
which
сказать,
for half a year
в лидской должности.
I've been a lead
Я очень люблю
tester.
учить, очень
I
люблю
like
учиться,
to
учиться
teach
больше, чем учить,
and
но
learn.
приходилось делать и то, и то.
I
И еще мне
had
нравится
to do
разумная
both, but I like
автоматизация.
learning
Разумная —
more.
это
I like
значит
also
примененная тогда, когда действительно нужно,
intellectual
проговоренная. Собственно, про
automation.
нее в том числе мы сегодня и будем говорить. Итак, пока вы видите на экране содержание,
While you see the
давайте
contents
вспомним
of my
вообще,
presentation, let's
что
think
такое
what is
автоматизация. Есть
automation.
руки тех,
Raise
кто
their
с ней
hands,
сталкивался в
those
работе.
who have come
О,
across or
здорово,
worked with
вас много.
automation.
А кто хотел
There are
бы
quite a few of
начать, но
you
еще
who
не
would like
начал?
to start
Или вот только делает
automating but is
первый?
making the
Тоже
first
есть
step.
надеюсь, что вам доклад будет полезен.
Well, it's great. I hope you like my
Автоматизация — это
presentation.
что? Это
Automation
инструмент.
is a tool
Инструмент довольно мощный.
which is
В
quite
руках умелого
powerful in the
пользователя.
hands of a new
Она хороша,
user.
когда
It's
применяется
good
в
when it's
соответствующих
used in
правильных
the
условиях.
proper
То есть, если мы
conditions.
сравниваем
When we
автоматизацию с
compare
молотком,
automation
то
with
ей
a
прекрасно
hammer,
забивать гвозди,
it's
но
easy
пилить
to
доску ей мы не будем. То есть, конечно, молотком
well,
можно разбить доску,
put
но
in
вы понимаете, что из этого
put in
выйдет
nails,
неровные края,
but
неровный попил, и
that's
может даже
the
не
best thing you
получится,
can
если
do with
опыта
it.
нет.
But if you
Собственно,
try
то
to
же самое с
saw
автоматизацией. Применять ее нужно в
wood
тех
with it,
условиях,
it
когда
won't
для нее
work.
есть
Same
всё
is
хорошо.
true without automation.
Итак, как же в идеальном мире мы
In
применяем
ideal
наш
world, we
инструмент?
use our
Во-первых, в
toolkit in the
идеальном
same
мире,
way. In the
когда
ideal
у
world,
нас
when
планируются
we
какие-то активности
plan
по
certain
автоматизации и
activities
тестированию, мы
on
всегда знаем о
test and
них за
automation,
некоторое время
we know
до. Да,
about
то есть нас
them
предупреждают,
in
мы участвуем
advance.
в
We are
планировании, скорее всего, в
planning,
подготовке,
we
оцениваем
participate
что-то.
in the planning.
Кроме того, в идеальном мире автоматизация у нас
Also, in the
присутствует
ideal
на всех
world of
уровнях
automation,
пирамиды
at all
тестирования.
the
У
test and
нас
pyramid
разработчики
levels,
пишут юнит-тесты,
we have
интеграционные
unit
тесты,
tested,
либо они, либо
integration
другая
test,
команда покрывают
either
сервисными
them
тестами
or
наши API.
either
Вот. Ну и интерфейсный тест
team
как такая вишенка
help
на
them
нашем тортике.
and
Кроме того, в идеальном
interface
мире,
test
скорее
and
всего, у
the
нас
top
есть
of a
команда
pyramid. In the ideal world,
наставников,
we
или
have
хотя бы один
a
наставник,
team
которые неплохо знают
of
продукт,
mentors
которые неплохо
or
знают
one
инструмент, с которым
mentor
мы
who
будем
knows
работать,
quite
и
well the
готовы нам
product and the
помогать
instrument
его
we work with,
осваивать.
and who
Но
are ready to
самое,
teach
на мой
us
взгляд,
how
главное,
to
в идеальном
use
мире,
it. In the
когда
ideal
нам
world,
приходят и говорят, ну что ж,
when we
кажется, мы
come
будем вводить
and to
автоматизацию.
us and say
Мы
that we'll be
уже умеем
implementing
писать код.
automation,
У
we
кого
already
была ситуация
know
в
how to
идеальном
write
мире?
code. Who had an ideal
Вы везунчик.
world situation? You
В
must be
реальности
lucky
всё
one.
иногда бывает
In reality,
несколько по-другому.
it is
Например, так.
different.
Привет, нам
So like
срочно
this.
нужны автотесты.
Hi,
Вот
we
горит, горит,
urgently
горит.
need auto
Большинство
tests.
тестировщиков команды
It's a burning
писать
issue.
автотесты
Majority
не
of the
умеют. И
testers
вообще,
don't know how
раньше
to
не
write
было
auto
опыта
test
кодинга.
and didn't have a
А
coding
еще у
experience in the
нас
past.
нужно, чтобы всё
Also,
было четко
we
видно. Мы
would
спрашиваем,
like to
почему
have
наши
everything
юнит-тесты
seen
разработчики
clearly,
пишут?
but we say
Нет,
unit
нужно
tests are
четко
written by our
видно,
developers.
чтобы было
No,
четко
we
видно,
wanted
какие вот сценарии
to
проверяются.
see
Окей.
scenarios that are
Сколько у нас
tested.
времени? А времени
How
по
much time do we
очень
have?
мало.
We
Мы
have
себя
very
чувствуем
little
примерно
time,
вот так.
and we feel
То
like
есть,
like
привет.
this
Хорошо.
dog in the picture.
Поднимите руку те, кто в этом случае
Raise your hands,
оказавшись
those
вот в этой вот
who
неидеальной
haven't found
ситуации,
themselves in
далёкой, к
a
сожалению, от
non-ideal
желаемого,
situation,
стал бы
which
срочно
is
учить
far from
какой-нибудь
desired,
язык программирования.
would quickly learn
Так, есть такие
some
вы,
programming
трудяги,
language.
это прям
You are hard
классно.
workers. This
Хорошо.
is great.
А кто поступил бы
Those of
ленивым
you
вариантом и подождал бы, что, может
who
быть, это
act
требование
lazy
автоматизации,
and wait for
все
this
забудут про него скоро?
automation requirements to go away
Тоже
and forget
разумный
about it.
подход. Хорошо.
Great.
Кто срочно
Another
стал бы
sane
смотреть
approach.
какие-нибудь
Who
туториалы,
would
как быстро поднять автотесты?
start
Да, я так тоже
saying
делала.
tutorials how to
Такой
start
relate.
our
И
testing.
это все на самом деле
regularly.
рабочие
Yes, I did
варианты.
the same
В
way.
каждой из
Those are
ситуаций
working
что-то может сработать.
options, and
Но
some,
есть еще одна
depending on the
опция
situation, each of them
задавать
can
вопросы.
work. Another option
Да.
is
Есть
ask
такая
questions.
замечательная модель
There's a
проведения
model
совещаний, называется
of
GROW.
holding meetings
Goal,
called
reality, options,
Grow,
and
Grow
will. То
Reality
есть,
Options
что мы хотим достичь,
and
что
Will,
у нас
what
уже
we want
есть,
to achieve, what
какие у
we
нас есть
have,
пути достижения
what
и
are
что
the
мы в
ways
итоге
of
будем
achieving it,
делать.
and what
Вот
we'll
примерно
do.
по этой модели неплохо пойти в данном случае.
So it's
То
not,
есть
it's a good
сначала мы
option
развернем
to use
обстановку
now.
и
First
понимаем,
of
что
all,
у нас
we
уже существует.
make
Ну,
a
например, существуют ли уже какие-то виды автоматизированного тестирования на проекте?
understanding,
Пишут ли
understand what
разработчики
we already have.
юнит-тесты?
Do
Кто-то писал,
developers
может
write
быть,
unit
автотесты на
tests?
API.
Somebody
Или, может
wrote
быть, даже
unit
есть
test
какие-то
using
поднятые
API.
end-to-end тесты. Ну, Бог
Or
знает, вдруг была команда
God
тестировщиков,
knows, maybe
которая
there was a
этим раньше
testing
занималась.
team that used to do it
Кроме
before.
того, наша команда тестировщиков, наш тестировщик
Our
совсем не
testing
умеет писать
team,
код,
either
или они, может быть,
they
чуть-чуть
don't know how
понимают, но у
to
них
write
просто
code
не было
at all, or
возможности
maybe they
применить это в
understand understand a little bit, but didn't have possibility to apply. What is the situation with auto test in the project? In the auto test, does anybody knows how to use tools, so we have them. The next is finding out our goal. Why do you need that test? Why? You need to ask this question. Is the coverage covering the regression? Is growing indefinitely? Or we need to cut down the time for testing? Or we're a startup, want to involve investors? It also happens, nothing wrong about it. So we know now. Based on this, we asked further questions. First, what are the time frame and deadlines? How long will the project last? The size of the team of QAs and developers. Maybe they could help each other. How detailed is the coverage? Cover all the scenarios in the test, or a small scenario, or just a demonstration would be enough. Do we need to put tests or introduce them into the CI? So how the test will behave in the general project system? And will there be a support of the project in the future? Will it be support or the test? Will be reading our code and looking at what we have done, blaming us for something. Besides, we need to ask about money, because sometimes we don't have funds to use the paid instrument. Next, what are the tests we need and the environment we need? We need to test browsers, for example. Finally, is there a final picture of what they expect for us? Better to have a definition of it done, cleared out. Now we know everything, what we have and what we need. Based on the requirements, we need to combine the resources that we have with the activities we need to do. If we have enough time, we have people who potentially help us. If testers already know the technological step and programming language, in this case it's better not to use hammer for sawing piece of wood. It's better to learn how to write a piece of code. Sometimes it's urgent. They don't have time for it. It's not hopeless. There's a way out, and we'll talk about it today. Codeless tools. Based on the name, these are tools that don't require coding skills from the testing. We Google them, we see that they have quite a few functions. They're easily installed, they allow to test various platforms, sometimes can be using AI. They generate fantastic reports. They exist even very well available. So you install and start. It's great. It's time to say stop to yourself and think. Stop and think. In every situation, you need to think. Let's think how we can use them. Do they correlate with our goals? If they're so great, why people are still writing codes? Aren't they stupid? Why write a code if you don't have to write it? There's so many of them, at least 10 I can name out of my head, how to select the best one for us. So we need to understand it. As any automation instrument, Codeless tool is a tool. It has application measures and borders, restrictions. So when to use it? Very few members of your team don't have time to write code, or we are pressed for time when we don't need support, because in the long-term perspective. And when the company bought a paid version of the utility program on it and we need to use it. Not everything depends on us. Sometimes we need to demonstrate something. When we had an internship for test engineers, we used one of the Codeless tools because it motivates and charges testers with energy. But last but not least, sometimes we simply want it. We're all human. We have our own wishes. desires. Sometimes we simply want to use this tool. We have time and strength. Why not? We're done with application restrictions, but it's not so simple. There will be pluses and minuses. I don't want to fool you here. What are the pluses? Codeless tools are easy to use. Some of them allow to install extension in your browser and use it instantly. They're called clickers. Besides, there are quite a few payless, free-for-use instruments that allow you to test desktop, for example. Also, in some instruments, some tools that use AI. Based on my experience, I didn't really notice any difference, but if we talk about startup, it could help attract investors. Clear what testers check and how they are run. They usually don't work out of the box, don't require change environment. But there are also negative sides to it. First of all, you need to remember that Codeless tool is another level between the code, between Java and Selenium. Just any intermediate level. It could slow down test and could be a source of errors in this layer. They don't depend on us. It's better to be able to affect everything. Codeless are non-standard automation, which people mean when they say doing automation. There could also be problems with integrating this system in the project. As to the CI, I would really take it away, because many tools allow to build tests inside a CI. You could have a false sense of euphoria. We should remember this is an intermediate layer. Now we're done with the restrictions, weighed all the pros and cons, but we need to select one that we need to work with. We can conduct comparative analysis of the examples. You can see a list of tools that I've selected because I've come across them in many articles and some sources. 8 of them are enough to make acquaintance. For comparison, we need criteria. I have the following. First is the cost. It's important. Sometimes companies are not ready to sponsor the paid tools. If it's just for a month, why ask for finances? Coverage, whether it covers UI or UI plus API. What is this application? Is this a web interface or is it an extension? Maybe a standalone app. What does it cover? Mobile, desktop. For me, it was a great piece of news. Several years ago, I couldn't find a desktop app automation. Possibility to share tests. It was ambiguous. I meant that send tests to somebody else and save files and export them to Telegram. Possibility to export tests into code. We want to support tests with code. Possibility of working with tests. In other words, what this tool allows to work with the code. Either open source or commercial app. For me, it was super interesting. Okay, let's go. Let's discuss. Selenium, IDE. First thing that comes into our mind when we think about codeless automation looks like extension for Chrome or Mozilla. It's possible to be integrated into in the various means of integration. You can export it into code. It's an open source tool. Most interesting thing is that you can transfer tests into code. If we start using it in future, we'll be able to support tests. We want to learn a particular programming language. Also, it is a popular tool supported by community. Simply Google issue and find an answer. It works fine out of the box. Install it in Chrome and start doing tests. Catalan Automation Recorder. To my surprise, not everybody heard about it. It's a shell of a Selenium IDE, like Forma 1, but better looking. It looks like a separate window in the browser. It allows to do more. It allows to export information to the code, up to creating this custom format, and allows to work with tests in many ways. For example, you can read blogs or logs, upload them in a file, in order to analyze the errors. Run test on the second machine and read test on the third one. So it provides the ability to create screenshots of the following test and is used the data-driven testing. They're quite impressive. So it's very compatible with the more powerful tool like Codeless Studio. Codeless Studio is a fully fledged IDE for test development. IDE because it's also a desktop app like the majority of IDEs, and because it has a lot of functions. It can integrate tests into the CI, export them to many programming languages. You can read logs, automatically save screenshots for the frozen test. But what I like most, it supports the automated testing only for web app, but also desktop app and mobile app, which is great functionality. You can see a list of various languages and frameworks where you can export. Besides, you can add here custom format files. What is great about it? We have free for use, powerful tools to create automated tests working out of box. It allows us to create tests for desktops. Also, it supports a page object when we record tests by the recorder. We simply want to record test scripts, but here you can structure them, which is great. To export test, the base is super wide. What I like most, you can use 3 script manual and record regime mode. Record mode involves Codeless recorder. If we talk about manual mode, the command we select by hand, click, switch, how to work with new window, for example. We choose to locate automatically using the same instrument. Script mode is a fully fledged test writing using the code. Here we move to the IDE and all tests can be tested between the modes. Record a test and see how it looks in terms of code. It really helped me at the time. Testing.io, one of the tools which allegedly uses AI for test running. Looks like a test panel plus extension installed in Chrome only. What is interesting, it covers not only interface but also databases. Unfortunately, it is paid for. I didn't find a price, so I simply need to write to creators. Has a huge integration capabilities with external instruments. Unfortunately, you cannot export your test in code, but however, it has a lot of capabilities out of box, up to using the branching or version making of the test, where you can have a stable branch with a stable test and new test amend. This is great. You can also work with several tabs or windows and run scripts inside the test, work with cookies. which is great. It was impressive for me. And you can write your own methods. Creators try to make...
I don't know whether it is good or bad, but this is one of the options. So far, while it works, why don't we use it? Interesting enough, we can use the data within a database and use the AI to run the tests. I didn't notice any difference myself, but I use a 2-week trial here. Perhaps if we are using for longer term, then the stabilization can be felt. Also, one can validate not only some elements on the per page, but also files. Like we have a PDF extension and a JPEG picture has a resolution of and weighs something. So these are unorthodox options, and I want to play with that. What I liked about the monetization of tests, recently I worked a lot with the Python Selenium PyTest, and there on the inventory it really inspired me. If it works like this here, then it's great. Ranorex Studio, also one of the most popular instruments list. A few years ago it was quite bombastic. So what is it all about? It looks like this. Ranorex has a few products, not only Studio but also IDXs for writing the code, but the Studio allows them to use automation without writing the code. This is exactly what it does. Yeah, I know that it's quite pricey. When I recalculate it into rubles, it's quite surprising, but it's a one-time purchase. You don't need to update it every year. So you buy it once and it's yours forever. It allows you to test web mobiles and desktop. It helps you a lot with integration. It can export tests into code. Whatever is maintained by the framework. This C# and Java are more relevant for us, I guess. Besides, you can record steps, run tests, all of this. I liked the productivity of tests and the screenshot of testing. You can even do not functional checks, but interface one, and you can launch tests remotely and on parallel. It's great. Basically, you can start a good thing. It's a commercial, of course, application compared to other things we discussed. Another interesting thing, beautiful and detailed reports out of the box. Also, you can test desktop applications, screenshot testing. Besides, for the tests, you can log data right from the application and parallel or remotely launch run tests. Mabel is also similar. Like the Steam web client working in combination with the extension only for Chrome, unfortunately. Also, it's a commercial client, and there's a subscription to that, but you have to individually approve it. It allows us to test only the web, but at the same time, it can do API as well. Its integration is as high as other instruments that we looked at. But you can run tests, scripts and tests with some preconditions and so on. It's great, quite great. Additionally, draws of interface versions. It supports different browsers, Internet Explorer, Safari, which is great indeed. It's quite unique, I think. And also it allows to work by using individual reports and work with a number of windows. So it's like works in a Google Doc. You can see who was the last to break it down. Test project, also a great instrument that was a discovery for me. It looks like a web interface, and the combination that it works in, it's unique. I never saw it. It's like web interface working in combination with desktop client and the so-called agent. What can allow us to do agent? Agent allows us to share tests within the team. If everybody has an agent and work with the same workspace, then everyone can have access to the same tests. Besides, you can establish add-ons. Add-ons is something great, which is typical for test project. In add-ons, you can find multiple functions, and I can say that such an instrument can be put together in a out-of-box interfaces and add-ons. Because of this, it can be quickly customized. For instance, I saw some excessive add-on, I say, by turning Russian English language in test cases, like in Siri. And all these add-ons allow us to expand the functions for the automation and mobiles as well. And the last in our list is testcraft. Unfortunately, I couldn't get in touch with the creators. Why? Because you cannot download the application from the site. You can write it, and then you will get this application for a test version, like Ranorex. And they didn't answer me, unfortunately. That's why I'm going to tell you what I saw in the official documents. Tests look like UNL diagrams here, which is quite interesting. Also, they support conditional testing. When you go through different ramifications of the tests with conditions, which is great. And the outlooks of the test, for instance, if you used to work with the diagrams of transition of situations, of statuses, and then it will be very convenient for you to move to this instrument. Additionally, you can correct the steps while doing the tests, which impressed me. If you use the same step in a number of tests, in the first test we see that on this step everything broke down, and not because something doesn't work or because the test is wrong. Then while the tests are going, you can quickly rectify this test, and another half of the test won't fall down. I think it's quite fun. Also, people are saying that there you can use AI for stabilization of tests. And another thing that I liked, like in Maple, there's a plug for emails. You don't need to use a separate box to test whether the letter has come. You can use this plug, and everything is in the system. You will see that the letter at least has come and its content there as well if you want to find something in the content. Okay, we'll look at such different options. All of them provide different opportunities and different functions. What can we select? The agony of choice. The best option, which is what? There is no best option. It was an obvious answer, because what I'm advocating for is that automation is an instrument depending on our goals and objectives. Why we use it? We use a tool which fits it best. You can see the table with the full comparison QR code, where you can find one comparison table for each instrument, and we choose depending on what we need at the moment. We need a free of charge powerful instrument. We test only in the web or mobiles. We need to quickly enter this automation, or maybe, I don't know, we need to maintain a long-term project, and for that we need a powerful tool. Okay, let's quickly look at how it works in real life, if you didn't see how it works. We'll launch the test, we open the page. For instance, I use Catalan, the nation recorder. We put into favorite something, find an element, check it. We see that the test is on a glitch. We see the red warning about the error, and we can find and download and see the screenshot. On the screenshot you can see that text does coincide with what we expect to see. Great. Okay, how do we select the instrument ourselves? First of all, we need to select the selection criteria. For instance, you can ask questions, and some of the criteria can be formed by yourself, or use the ready-to-use ones. Would be even better, because this is the comparison which is used in a link in the table. Might be of help to some people who are agonizing what to choose. And let's look at what is more and less important for us. Then we can do the comparison. We can organize it as a table, or simply write down important details for each of the instruments, discuss with the team. Okay, that's an interesting formulation, but when you go deep into this sea of instruments, sometimes you tend to forget it. See, our studio idea, it's great. We shouldn't forget about the common sense. Instrument sometimes fits the criteria, but doesn't fit, say, logic of its use. We need to get an endorsement from the management or endorsement from the team, because there should be some transparency in our actions, and to do it single-handedly would be wrong. And we need to remember why we're doing this. By this, maintaining motivation throughout the whole course of the project. We need to remember why we use this instrument and why we decided to use this hammer. While I told you about this instrument, now I have another one which I found just a couple of days ago, which works through NPM and through, if I'm not mistaken, Puppeteer. And I would like to show it as an example that you shouldn't be linked to any particular instrument. Market offers something new, something free of charge, something commercial, something more powerful, less powerful. Most importantly is the instrument should fit you, your needs. And maybe for that you need to do the analysis at the moment when this instrument is something that you need. Let's summarize. Codeless instruments, codeless tools are tools, and they work well in good hands. And you have to remember always which limitations this has. If you want to go deeper into web tests and become eventually a person who will proudly say, yes, I'm doing automation, then you will have to learn the code. Codeless instruments, codeless tools are just a provisional solution. It's like a cudgel for you, but for the beginning and for urgent tasks, codeless tools are a good beginning. If you can do it in Excel, why not? There is no ideal tool, of course, just like there is no silver bullet for anything. That's why we need to remember always why we need that tool at this point in time and how we're going to use it. And finally, the automation is just a tool. I keep repeating it throughout the whole presentation. Will maximize the use in good hands, and everything depends on you, on your wish, on your goals, on your abilities and skills, and how much you're going to squeeze out of this tool. In fact, this slide shows the benefits. These are the links to all the tools that I reviewed here. Another comparison table here, if you didn't have time to photograph it, and the presentation of David Golub about the future of QA, and there you can read about codeless tools as well. It's a great presentation. Comes highly recommended. And in the end, I would like to show you the old adage, Viam supervadet vadens, meaning the person who walks will reach the end. Walk the walk, and then you'll reach the end of your destination. Just don't give up and remember why you're doing this. And the instruments will always be with you. Thank you very much. Now I can take your questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. I have the following question. From your personal experience, flags and tests, can they be done with the codeless tools? Yes, instability of tests will always be there. I've used codeless tools in the very beginning, when I didn't know how to write the code, and sometimes tests crashed, because, say, a couple of years ago, codeless tools could grab locators, a lot of divs, and as soon as the page changed, like the structure of the page, then the tests started to crash. Now maybe codeless tools are better fit to make it more representative, but not all of them. That is why I can say that perhaps flag tests will continue to appear, and maybe they will appear a bit more often than with the use of the code. You need to remember that if the system is unstable, then codeless tools is the solution for you. Then the next question coming from the first one, should we, or rather how difficult is it to maintain and check these flag tests? Well, it's not that difficult, because the reports are quite understandable. You can easily find the error, but when it's a crazy one, it crashes, not when it doesn't work, but when there is a problem with the test. It's not difficult to maintain, but it tracks your nerves. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Dmitry. Thank you for your presentation. Out of all the tools that you mentioned here, I worked once with Test Project, and I wanted to look at its source codes, but I wasn't given them. So the similar question that many people have, like myself, why don't you simply hire an experienced automation specialist who will write the tests and will teach you how to launch them, how to write them, and I will show you how the infrastructure works. Thank you very much, Dmitry, for your question. I was waiting for it, to be honest, and perhaps there are a number of arguments here. Some of the projects have very short life cycle, like 3 months, and we're not going to maintain any further. That's why to hire an automation specialist would be quite risky, and when the project runs out, what can we do with them? If they're overqualified for the next project, and if they will be simply sitting without work. Secondly, finding good automation specialists is quite a difficult task, and it's quite a challenge to train them. So codeless plug is something that we use for the people who will later on use it, and there will be no need to use these instruments later on. Anyway, generally speaking, if there is a person who is prepared to do automation, then it's great. But codeless instruments is the way out for us when it's difficult to find something, because it's always a challenge to find a person that you need. But if you have a number of projects in one, then an experienced automation specialist always has ideas that they can apply right away. Simply write a scenario for them. Yes, after the report, I will share with you. We'll discuss, prepare to discuss with you if somebody has advice or tips about this. I'm quite open to that. I agree that it's a good solution, but not always can we do it now and here. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Sergey. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting. I have the following question. If we're talking about the use of Codeless Studio, in what way do you search for objects on desktop applications, whereas it's understood how it works with Android, but it's not really clear how you're looking for objects on desktop on the screenshots, or is it SQA Days, like with the screenshots and based on some twisted AI, it's looking for that? Thank you for the question, Sergey. To be honest, I didn't go so deep into this, that's why I won't be able to answer it well. I can only suggest that the search function is done based on, I don't know, some keys to some specific file, but it's just a suggestion, because I'm not a specialist here. That's why, unfortunately, I cannot answer this question. Okay, thank you. And another thing, just a couple of, 3 months ago, there was such thing as RT test at DA. Chinese are doing this, and those people who worked with that, they say it's very powerful and it's free of charge. RT test at DA. You can look at it. Maybe it will be useful for you. Thank you. Hello, thank you for your presentation. My name is Timofey. It was a very interesting presentation. Once I heard, I didn't see it myself, but I heard that such clicker auto tests, codeless tools, take absurdly too much time for tests. How big a problem is that for you, and how are you fighting with that? Do you cut out test plan, or do you do something on parallel with number of devices? What kind of experience do you have in fighting back this problem? Thank you. Thank you for your question, Timofey. In fact, from my experience, when I used codeless tools, I didn't have problem of how to launch a huge number of tests. Of course, slowdown vis-a-vis the code itself can be felt when you move to the code, but it never was a real problem that we would have to fight against. And then when I realized later on that we need to use automation in work, then I moved to the code writing, and I used Python and then Selenium to start it, because codeless tools didn't allow me to do everything I wanted at the moment. That's why I simply failed to reach the moment of fight. But on the parallel launch, I guess, might be one of the solutions. And just as I mentioned in one of the things here, the difficulty is that the speed will always be slower here. And even if we try to optimize our locators and approach it from different angles, not only from the instrument side, then sooner or later we're going to see that it takes too much time to implement it, and the system is growing and we need to move to code. What I meant here is not that the test itself is slowly running. What I meant is that the size of tests, or their number, how catastrophically big can it grow. In a big project is quite clear. In a small project, you cannot make too many tests so that they are implemented daily. But based on the experience of my colleagues, big projects, get bogged down there because there are a huge number of tests, and they need to find a solution for that. I think for big projects, we need to use automation, coded automation tools, because they have more ways to optimize the speed. This is not for codeless tools, unfortunately. That's the answer I can give to you. Thank you. Unfortunately, we have run out of time for questions. Later on, approach the speaker individually. Can I give the t-shirt to Sergey? I liked his question very much. He caught me up on that. And thank you for your advice as well.